is going on, YouTube? We are actually starting this video off at the post office. Got to ship some more stickers out. I got the link down in the description if you guys want to buy HunterTuned stickers. It helps the channel out a little bit. Anyways, guys, I really do appreciate all the support the channel has gotten. The last video I posted about Chrome tuning got a lot of positive response. So thank you guys that you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it was helpful for some of you. I was also told that I should talk about ignition timing. Now, ignition timing on a Honda usually doesn't matter all that much with all motor. For wide open throttle, on pretty much any like B series motor, I set it at 28 degrees. Hondas usually don't respond that well to like ignition timing ramped in, like as RPM increases, or like running 35 degrees of ignition. It doesn't make a difference on a Honda. They like 26 to 30 degrees, anywhere in there, and they seem to work good. If you run any less than 26, you're gonna start losing power. If you run any more than 30, you're really not gonna gain any power. And I'm saying, like, if you go from like 28 to 30 degrees, you're gonna add 2 horsepower. It's not nothing really to even waste of time with, honestly. Once your ignition is set, just leave it. You always see me use like a timing light and time the engine before I tune. I didn't show you on this one, but the last couple of cars that I tuned, made videos on, I always use a timing light first because that tells the ECU what base timing is. Now, if your base timing is 18 degrees, the computer thinks it's 16 degrees. So if you got 28 degrees of it at wide open throttle, it's really going to be 30 degrees at the motor, if that makes sense. And if your base timing is at 22 degrees, you're going to add 6 degrees to your timing table on the computer. So if you're running 30 degrees, you're really going to be running 36, which when you're starting to run that high, which you can do, I've seen it, when you're starting to run that high of ignition timing because your distributor is messed up, you're gonna hurt the motor. It's gonna break a ringland, or you're gonna melt a hole in the piston or something, or it's gonna detonate and rattle a valve and drop a valve. So a lot of the times, like, retainers and stuff like that break too if the motor detonates, or like sees a lot of rev limiter and stuff like that. This motor actually has stock springs and retainers, which normally I don't run, but with budget and stuff like that with this car, I just decided to keep the stock springs and retainers. Now, like I said, with the stock springs and retainers, a lot of the times the retainer will break if the motor rattles at all. So like if you get any sort of detonation, or if you get like super hard on the rev limiter, like and you're just sitting on the damn limiter like forever, that rattles the motor too a little bit and can actually break the retainer and have the valve fall in the motor, which is like the worst possible case scenario you can have with a Honda motor. As for the rest of the timing tables on the computer, my laptop's actually dead right now, otherwise I'd show you, but maybe I'll charge the laptop up and I'll actually show you. Alright, so I figured I'd actually show you on the laptop here what I was talking about with the timing and what I do with the ignition timing mainly. So this is just a stock P30 B16 map here. And like I said, on the low cam side, I really don't touch a lot of this stuff, because if you run a lot of ignition at like a low RPM, say like anywhere from 1,000 to like 3 grand, it's the Honda motors usually don't like it, and will actually start to ping or detonate. So I usually don't touch any of this table unless the car is running like 110 octane or like C16 fuel or E85 or something like that. So on the high cam side, you can see like these numbers on the factory map go from like 25 degrees of timing to 27, and then back down to 25, and then to 26 and 24 and 24.5, and yeah, it's all over the place. So what I do is I usually take these last 3 columns here, right click, selection, and I set them all at 28, and they like it. Hondas usually like when the timing is flatlined like this. You can trickle it in a little bit at higher RPMs, but like I said, it doesn't pay. You're maybe going to gain 1 horsepower. So yeah, but this is just a general overview of the ignition timing that I can recommend to you guys for like an all motor setup that's running like regular pump gas. Now, for the rest of the video here, I'm actually going to be heading to A21 Bravo's place, and we're going to actually flow the injectors that were out of the Mustang. So as you see, this is the intake manifold that was out of my car, the Chevstang, and number 7 cylinder melted. So I want to flow the injectors and kind of see where they're at. A lot of people are blaming the injector for causing the issue that I had. So I want to see where the injectors are at, so I can kind of get more of a clear understanding of why the piston failed in the first place. I personally think it could be injectors, just because they're decapped and I did not flow them. But I also feel like the turbo was struggling. So I feel like the turbo being maxed out is going to send a lot more hot air into the engine when it's at its limits. So I'm thinking that was really the main thing. Plus, I added way too much ignition timing in the tune just to try to go 9s one time. And to my disadvantage, it did not work. Now, A21 Bravo actually just made a flow bench tester thing. So like you can put the injectors into a fuel rail, and then it measures how much flow the injector actually puts out. I have like normal regular truck injectors right here out of like a normal 5.3 motor, and then I have some flex fuel injectors here. I'd love to actually test both of these and see like how much more the flex fuel ones flow compared to the normal truck injectors and whatnot. And I actually might start buying these injectors from the junkyard, decapping them, flowing them, and then selling them if you guys are interested. I can almost probably put together a kit to put these into like your Honda, or to put them into pretty much any car you want. I think it'd be really cool because these injectors run very well. They run good in the Mustang. They run great in my buddy's cobweb covered Civic that I did a video on. We installed LS injectors into that thing, and it flowed nearly 1,200 cc's of fuel. So if I could get a set of injectors for you guys, you know, and sell them for like 25 bucks a piece, or maybe less. Honestly, like if you wanted to buy a set of 8 of them, we could probably do like, I don't know. I don't know the pricing and stuff like that yet, but if you guys were interested in like a super cheap set of injectors that flow good and are even, that would be really cool if I could start selling them. That'd be, yeah. All right, so we made it to A21's dojo here. He's got a pretty sick flow bench homemade deal here, or injector flow test rig, whatever you want to call it. We're just filling up the little gas tank, what you call it. And he's just got a fuel pump running into this water jug here, which comes out to a stock truck rail with the factory regulator and all that stuff. So it should be pretty close test for my injectors on the Mustang. So I didn't even pull apart the rails or anything off of the intake manifold yet. I just left everything in here exactly how I pulled it out of the car, so we can see exactly what cylinder was, misflowed or whatever the case with the injectors, if we have any bad injectors, or if the number 7 injector was an issue because it was clogged up or something. This is his Turbo Ranger pickup truck he's working on. Check out his channel too. He's got quite a bit of projects going on with this thing, making his own turbo manifold and stuff like that. This thing actually turned out pretty good, dude. A lot of the, like you buy like a hooker manifold or anything like that, it's literally the same thing as this. So if you got a little creativity and a frickin' Hobart, I think you'd be alright. You can make your own setup.
It was kind of a bastard to actually do because they just split the pipe down the middle and then like widened out. Just used a compressor wrench and split it all open and hooked it over well.
Yeah, I bet you could just use a cutoff wheel or something like that,
Yeah.
I also brought some more injectors here for him to kind of play with if you'd like, because like I said before I got here, these are the flex fuel injectors that I'd like to see how much they flow in comparison to the normal truck injectors. And if I do have any misflowed injectors on my Mustang, I might as well replace them with some that are closer. Yep, okay, so we just pulled the injectors off of the rail. It goes 1, 3, 5, 7, and those are the ones we are going to test first. So we're just going to pop them out of my China rails here and put them into like a factory truck rail here. The only thing is I actually had to grind down the injector on one side to get it to fit into these rails. So hopefully the clip still works.
Yeah, it should.
Okay.
It should.
So there's the number 7.
There's the bad one.
Hopefully. Now these injectors, keep in mind that they have been sitting in this rail for like 2 months now with residual E85 sitting in them, so I don't know if that's going to skew the results or not. I sure hope not.
We're doing a comparison, so whatever happened to this one should have happened to this one while it was sitting in the rail, so if there was anything in there, we should still get the same result.
Exactly.
Clippy dippy time.
Right.
I actually had one pop off the other day when I was doing a test.
Really?
That was not fun.
Yeah, these rails are actually set up so that you don't even use those clips. They're just like a press fit deal.
Yeah, that's nice, because these clips are a pain in the...
Yeah, for sure.
Pain in the forehead.
I actually just put some spacers on the bottom of these rails, like you can see. And then they come with these little brackets I just flipped upside down and drilled a center hole and used 1 bolt for the bracket. It's kind of ghetto, but it works just fine. And these rails were like $100. And they flow definitely a lot more than the factory one. Okay, so we're doing a static test and then a dynamic test. Can you explain what the difference is between a static test and a dynamic test and how you have this set up?
So basically how I have that set up on the switch is one direction, I flip the switch and it turns all the injectors on, or what I've been doing because the decapped injectors flow a lot more fuel for the stock pump, is just running 2, but the switch will turn the injectors on all of the time, or I can flip the switch in the other direction and I have a second button that will pulse the injectors at 30 cycles per second. So basically 30 pulses per second. And
you said that's like around 3,000 RPM or something like that?
30,
average?
Yep, 30 hertz, 30 cycles per second is about 3,600 RPM on the engine equivalent. So.
Okay. So at least there's some sort of comparison here. If it's not just going to be like a wide open test, we can also do like the dynamic or static, whatever the hell you called it.
Yeah.
But I'm really just concerned to see how much the thing flows at wide open because that's where the car lives.
So we can do both.
Alrighty.
So what I'll do is we can kind of watch the pressure, and I'll usually flip the pump on for a little bit and then purge the air out of it. We'll do that and make sure everything's hooked up and I'm not going to blow gas everywhere. Now we see the pressure building. And it'll rest around 65 psi. And I'll run the pump and then it'll turn them on all the way. You can see how I purged some of the air out for a little bit. And that one's probably not plugged in all the way.
Look at that, 7's already flowing more. Just kidding. Uh-oh.
What's going on there? Is that one not even...
Is that a dud?
What's going on? Maybe that one was just flowing so little fuel that it blew up number 7?
Right.
That's probably what it was.
All the heat transferred through the cylinder to get to this one that's actually flowing decent.
So let's
well, that's funny because that's number 5 and that piston looked completely fine when I pulled it apart, but that injector almost looks like it's not even working.
Yeah, let's switch the wiring, see.
Maybe we'll go 9s just by fixing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's like barely doing anything.
Wow, that's like almost factory flow.
It's turning it on.
Is that wide open test too?
Yep.
Wow. Either that injector is super clogged up. Now
like
it's starting to get better, yeah.
It's starting to go more, yeah.
I bet you it's just clogged up a little bit.
So if I go the other direction with the switch.
There's the dynamic test.
Seems like it's flowing.
Now it's flowing better. I bet you it just had some residual shit in the end of the injector, which, like I said, they've been sitting for a while with E85 sitting in them, so that's always not good.
All right. So we'll take a little time and we'll purge out the other ones, make sure they're good, and then we'll come back and show some real testing.
So we just found another injector that was like completely not working. This car was running on all 7 when I tore it apart, so I'm thinking either this is just because the E85 has definitely clogged these injectors up from sitting, or maybe this thing is just a dud, and I went 10-1 with like 4 injectors working.
Yeah, and this one you can hear pulsing.
Yep.
Because all the other 3 are unplugged.
Yep.
So this was one of mine. I'll plug it into this biatch. Well, you can use the same plug to make it fair.
Right.
So that's not the injector pulsing, that's actually the frequency generator in the back.
So this injector is not even working.
No, it's
like,
not.
it's not even. So he's getting a little curious here and seeing why this thing's what's wrong with it. So we're just taking a multimeter, a fancy one, and measuring resistance probably. Is that what
We
you're doing?
got 12 ohms on a good one.
Okay. Let's see what we got on the bad one here.
12.7. I mean, it's pretty close. I don't
Right.
think like the circuit is broken or anything. I wonder if it's still clicking and maybe clogged.
Yeah, maybe it's just completely clogged. I don't know.
Strange.
Yeah, that is weird. But that's why we have like a junkyard and 100 more injectors we can use.
Yeah, they're both like dead on.
Okay, so number 7 and number 5 look like they're completely dead on for the dynamic test here. That tells me that these are good.
Yeah, so probably want to do like another test. We'll do like a full 20 seconds, both injectors, and then we'll do a full wide open test and just see where they end up. And this is at 45 psi right now, just for reference. So this one is at 205, and this one is at just above 205.
Yeah, so these two are matched pretty damn close. So I don't think the injector was the reason for the piston to melt in my Mustang motor.
So
I'm really surprised that this one didn't melt it, because that one's not even working. And that piston was completely fine when I pulled it apart. I said in one of the last videos I was actually curious to what those flex fuel injectors actually came out of. If they came out of like vans at all, or if they just came in like Escalades and stuff like that. So if you guys do know, leave it in the comments and let me know what those injectors came out of.
Alright, so we're going to do the other test. We'll do 20 seconds. Fuel pump's running. Same exact number as the first test. So we got a 150 and we got a 150.
So we are going to do a wide open test now, which is called the dynamic or the static?
The static test.
Static test.
Wide open test.
Yeah, so this is pretty much just going to run the injectors completely wide open. So we will see what they run wide open now and see how close they are.
Okay, shush. So this is done with a stock 98 Ford Ranger fuel pump. 4 decapped injectors wide open. It's only holding about 25 psi, but all we want to see right now is how even they flow. Alright, so that should be good enough.
And how did you turn it on?
With a switch. Alright, so we got about a 280 right here. This one's about a 195.
That's a 245, you mean?
So this one would be...
I guess there is some variation. It's not nothing
yeah.
crazy, but
Yeah, that's only
that one's
50.
blowing quite a bit.
245. 230. That one's about a 237.3. That one's probably that one's kind of smeared off, but a 225. I keep getting these graduations mixed up and thinking they're 10s instead of 5s.
So yeah, the injectors are flowing pretty similar. I mean, obviously they're not going to be perfect being decapped injectors, but the number 3 was a complete dud and did not even work. So yeah, but the number 7 cylinder actually flowed what it should have. The number 1 cylinder was the most, it flowed the most, and then the whole passenger side of the motor here was probably the weakest, with 165, 155, 160, and 155. That's just a 20-second test that we did, so the dynamic test done for 20 seconds at a time, and this is how many milliliters it filled up in the graduated cylinder there. Okay, so we just took the number 3 injector, which was a dud, it didn't work, and he just kind of pushed on the end of the pintle there. I think that's called the pintle.
Yeah, so you can see, probably might be hard to see on the video, but you can see it moving a little bit. So we took the other one, plugged it in the same spot, and it wasn't moving before. Now it is, but it just took the end of a Sharpie with the injector activated with it on, and basically just pushed it in.
On it, yeah.
Got it to move.
Maybe it was jammed up or something with fuel.
This is probably just stuck.
Yeah.
And now we got it moving, so we're gonna throw it in and test it quick. Because we're gangsters.
Yep. Alright, so I just got back from A21's house, and we got the injectors flowed. You know, it's not the best test in the world. It's just a homemade like injector flow tester, and obviously the testing wasn't completely accurate, but we're just looking for a ballpark here. I'm not looking to get down to like the absolute precise exact measurements. I'm not really interested in that. I really just wanted to see if the injectors were like way off, or if like number 7 was like clogged or something like that and causing the number 7 cylinder to run lean because of the injector. A lot of people have been giving me shit about saying, hey, the number 7 cylinder probably went out because you put decapped injectors in and you didn't flow test them, which could be a possibility. But my theory is that the injectors were completely fine. That wasn't my issue. And I think that just the nature of a boosted car, when you put a fan on the end of the throttle body, so you're pushing air in, all that air is naturally going to want to rush all the way to the back of the intake and then bounce around. So I think naturally when all the air goes rushing in, it's going to naturally want to go to the back of the motor. So like I would say the back half of the motor is going to make or get more boost than the front half of the motor. That's just the way I think, and it makes sense to me because just like on these LS motors, the 7 cylinder usually goes out, and on Hondas, if you got a power problem, this cylinder usually goes out. So same theory applies to Hondas. When you run air into the intake manifold with boost, this doesn't apply to naturally aspirated because the motor's naturally sucking in the air. But if you're boosted, you're literally just pushing air against the one side of the intake, and all that air is going to want to go to the far side. If you guys don't know about Skunk 2's Ultra Series manifold, you can actually see the design of the intake, which is a super cool idea how they designed it. And it actually like caps off and starts tapering down at the end of the intake. So hopefully that kind of shows you that this may be an actual problem with, you know, any boosted application when you're running a lot of horsepower through it and a lot of boost pressure. So hopefully that stuff makes sense to you guys. We're going to get the Mustang back up and running soon. You know, I replaced the piston that was bad on the motor, and this thing's ready to go. I just got to chuck the heads back on and get the transmission back. Yeah, stay tuned for the next video. I think tomorrow I'm actually going to finally start working on this new Civic that we got here as a project to work on for you guys. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to go check out A21 Bravo's YouTube channel. He used to do stereo stuff back in the day, and now he does like, you know, he's starting to build some horsepower stuff, so that's cool. And he definitely helped me out a lot by helping me out with these injectors. He's actually going to flow a set for me, so I have a more matching set, and so we can throw them into the Mustang, even though I really don't think it was an issue, but just to be safe, I want to throw some richer ones in the back of the motor. So like 7 and 8 are going to have a richer injector compared to the front cylinders. So yep, that's going to be it for this video, guys, and thank you for watching.